What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, before we get into the meat of today's video, if the energy is a little low, I do apologize. I feel like utter garbage. No, I don't have COVID or anything like that, so you guys don't need to worry. I know that a lot of you have seen on social media that COVID is starting to kick everyone in Call of Duty's ass a little bit. But I've gotten tested a bunch of times. They've all been negative, so no need to worry there. I just feel like shit. My best guess is the land bug that tends to happen at events. We also haven't been to an event in a pretty long time with fans, so it was only a matter of time before we got sick, period. So no, I don't have COVID or anything. I just feel like shit, but the show must go on. I didn't want to skip too long because I've been like pretty scarce with the uploads the last couple of weeks, so I want to try to maintain some level of consistency even if the video isn't 100% or I'm not 100%. So as you guys can tell by the title of today's video, I'm going to be ranking the top 10 Cold War professional COD players, and I'm sure this video will get a bunch of super fun conversation going, and we're all going to be civilized adults. And we're just gonna get into the nitty gritty. This is completely my opinion. This is not based on stats. This is not fucking, this guy's a 1.2, so he has to be top 5. I don't give a shit about stats. I'm going off of my personal preference, tournament performance, scrims, just how I view the player myself. Again, this is an opinionated video. Feel free to disagree. That's fine. But yeah, can't wait for the reactions on this one. Let's get started, guys. So guys, we're gonna go 10-1 because I have to build some level of suspense. I don't want to start out at number 1. So coming in at number 10, rounding us out, is going to be the king, none other than Scump Penis Pumper himself. Now, I've said it publicly a bunch of times, and you guys are well aware of my opinion on Seth this year. I think this is one of Seth's best titles that he's had in a very long time. I mentioned it on the Eavesdrop podcast that I said it was his best title since BO3. You could probably say since IW. He was fuck with me in a pregame lobby before we streamed one time saying that. I mean, truth be told, the success, like I said, it's a really good game for him. His S&D this year has been top tier. He's probably like a top 3 S&D player in this game, which you haven't really been able to say about his previous games. His respawn has always been super consistent, and I think he's really just stepped into his own. He's just a super consistent sub, which is something that we really haven't seen in a little while. Obviously, Seth is the most talented Call of Duty player of all time. I think that's the general consensus, or one of. And I think that people were really just waiting for him to become that, king-esque player that everyone knows him to be. And I think this year he's really done that. Obviously, they don't have any tournament wins, but it's kind of hard when you have, teams like Toronto and FaZe. But I really think that Seth has really stepped into his own, and this is one of his best titles. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about KD in this video. I don't give a shit about any stats or anything like that. Just purely off of the eye test and playing him and how I feel on the map against him. I think that this is really just a phenomenal game for Seth. And 10 through 6 is a really tough spot to rank the players, because I think there's a clear-cut top 5, but I think once you hit that 6 through 10 area, a lot of the players become interchangeable. So keep that in mind as I rank these, because you really could flip-flop any of the 6 through 10 and make a valid argument for it. But I do think Seth deserves to be in the top 10. I don't think a lot of people really have him in the top 10. As you guys will see as we get down, I left a couple of players out, but I really do think Seth's the top 10 player in this game. So shout out to him for the phenomenal performance this year. Let's see what he can do with champs. Alrighty, guys, moving on to number 9, we have Brandon Dashy. I feel like you really have to have Bruce in your top 10, just purely off mechanical skill. Now, regardless of if his team is winning or if they're getting blown out or however it is, Brandon is going to maintain consistency for the most part. He does have his dips, but every player does. But his game this year has really elevated. I think that having a secure double AR meta for the most part, obviously towards the tail end of the year, it's become 3 subs, which he's actually been pretty proficient with, surprisingly, because we really don't know him to use a sub that well. But maintaining a double AR meta throughout the entirety of the year really helped Brandon a lot, because it's essentially what happened BO4 with me and Austin. You have a dominant AR duo with Formal and Dashy, and I think Brandon has really just taken off and respawn. His S&D is what he was kind of known for when he became a pro player, World War II, BO4 era. But I think his respawn this year is something that's really propelled him into being in the top 10, if that makes sense. Like I said, mechanical outplays and aiming and all that stuff is obviously a lot more prevalent in respawn because you just have more gunfights. Watching him play is, you know, people always say that he has one of the best shots of all time. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to not put him in our top 10. It started from the beginning of the year. You guys saw him drop like 60 or something on Crossroads with the QBZ. So he's been proficient throughout the entirety of the year. It's been a level of consistency that warrants the top 10 placing, in my opinion. Alrighty, guys, moving on to number 8, we have Shotz. A lot of people have said that he's been Ant's been carrying his team for the majority of the year when the rest of his roster really wasn't performing that well, and that is a pretty well-known fact. He didn't have the greatest Major 5, but then again, I think his whole team kind of underperformed. So when you're a fast-paced sub and your team isn't playing well, you tend to get impacted a lot more than your teammates do. But barring Major 5, he's had a phenomenal year. He has been the mainstay of consistency for the Dallas Empire. He obviously last season's MVP, Call of Duty World Champion. That kid has some of the greatest mechanical skill, not even shot, obviously, you know, for his movement, but just how his fingers move in Call of Duty is some of the most impressive stuff that you'll ever see. And I can't wait for like the montages after his career's over of all of his highlights, because there's just some stupid shit that he's able to do. So I think not having him in the top 10, especially with his performance this year, is kind of a crime. So I feel like he deserves a spot. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's super hard to rank 6 through 10. So I feel like having him at 8 is pretty good. And I think his consistency is something that the Empire was able to build off of when the rest of his team really wasn't performing that well. You know, with the addition of Reese to this team, I think that gives him a quote unquote bash bro to help out. And I think that Vivid and Shotz are a formidable sub duo. And I think that with a little bit more time, I don't know if this roster is going to stick into the next game, obviously, but I think with a little bit more time and a little bit more veteran leadership out of Thick Six, then I think that these two guys can be an absolute force on the map. And I think, like I said, just purely off of the level of consistency that Ant has had throughout the entirety of the year, even through his team struggles, I think that that's super impressive, let alone from a sub player. You know, if it's an AR, it's a little bit different. It's a lot easier to throw up better KDs when your team is struggling with an AR as opposed to with a sub, because like I said, when your team's not playing well, it tends to impact the subs a lot more because the flow of the map is off. But like I said, just purely off consistency, similar to Brandon, we're gonna have to send him into the number 8 spot. Moving into number 7, we have the previous Major 5 champion in young rookie Standy. Now this kid, I think, came in and exceeded essentially everyone's expectations. This is his rookie debut year. He has been pretty much a force since his very first league match. He beat Optic in his first ever league match, so I think that was kind of like, all right guys, I'm here to mess shit up, essentially. That kid has been absolutely insane all season long. He's had some ridiculous pop-off games, and obviously was part of one of the greatest comebacks to ever occur in COD history. He won an event in his first season, which seems to be the theme of rookies, by the way. That's just like, if you're a rookie, you come in and kind of win an event. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Fuck it, I guess. They are a favorite heading into COD champs. So this kid's doing it all. Chris won his first COD champs as a rookie. Ender won his first COD champs as a rookie, and Standy might do the same. So I think now's a great time for rookie COD talent. This kid is a phenomenal S&D player. I think that's the backbone of what he's built his rookie season off of. Obviously he's had pop-off respawn moments, but I think that his consistency in S&D is really something to behold. This kid stuck through roster changes. I've had personal conversations with him. He's a really good kid. He has a good head on his shoulders, and he really just wants to learn COD, which is something that's super dope. He's excited. Like I said, I've talked to him outside of the game personally about you know, his performances and what he thinks about being a pro COD player. And you know, like I said, he's a good ass kid, and I'm happy to see him win. You know, he's someone that I definitely wish I took a shot on over the offseason if my team let me. He definitely deserves a higher end on this rating. He's been pretty much the best player on that team the entirety of the season since he came in my opinion. He's just been insane, and all with a sub. These are all sub players, which is something that's a little bit crazy. You know, 3 of the 4 players that I've said so far have been subs, so that's pretty cool. You know, ARs are a lot easier, but I think subs have higher impact on the map. So when you're proficient with a sub, it tends to stand out a lot more as you being a dominant player as opposed to an AR. But you know, now just outside of the top 5, we do have another sub player, and this kid, let me tell you something. This kid, number 6, we do have Toby Kleenex. Now Toby might be one of the most high-paced, high-impact sub players that we have. The only 2 players I could really compare Toby's playstyle to is Reese and Tyler or Abizi. That kid moves like no one else. He has a shot like very few others, and when he's frying, it's really annoying because you kind of just lose badly. This is another sub player. Just wow, dude, the amount of sub players in my top 10 is disgusting. Now, when Toby's playing well, Toronto tends to really not have many issues. Now, I think the one of the main reasons for Toronto's success this year is Toby's consistency. I think that like I said, man, when he takes over, it's like almost Simp-esque. Like when he is frying, there's like no one on the map that can kill him. He's in that flow of like when you're a sub player and you have like everything going right for you, you just, it's impossible to beat you. And that's exactly the type of player that Toby is. He just is super high impact, super high engagement, in your face, gunfight after gunfight after gunfight, and he tends to win most of them, which is why I have him at number 6. Now, I thought that he and Cammy were extremely underrated last year on Toronto. They did win an event, but I thought probably like halfway through the year when they started to, you know, hit that peak form, I thought that these two guys were some of the most underrated players that the league had to offer. And you know, I hate to tell myself I told you so, but like these two this year have been pretty much unstoppable, barring, you know, themselves at this point. So shout out to Toby. This kid is very bright future ahead of him. You know, if he continues the trajectory that he's on right now, then he's going to go down as one of the greats. I think that his gun skill is very, very few and far between that you see players of his caliber. Alrighty, guys, into the nitty gritty of the video. My top 5, like I said, I don't think these players are movable from top 5. I think you can move them around in the top 5, but I think these 5 players are pretty much irrefutable, at least in my opinion. I could be talking out of my ass, who knows. At number 5, we have Toby's teammate Insight. This is also his rookie year. Yo, I might retire and then like come back in a couple of years or something. I don't know, dude. Insight's going to be the only man AR on this list. A little bit of a spoiler, but this kid is the most infuriating person to play against. He is like so slow, but in the best way possible, because that like enables Toby. So their dynamic is what makes this team work so well. Insight's pure like fundamental knowledge of COD and like understanding what he needs to do in order for his teammates to succeed is like the reason I have him top 5. He's the best S&D player in this game, like probably by a pretty wide margin. He is, like I said, just the epitome of fundamental slow COD, and it is so aggravating to play against because you know where he's gonna be like 9 times out of 10. It's just like positioning yourself in a way to kill him, or like just working around that is like so infuriating. And you know, that when I get pissed off playing another mid AR, like that's when you know they're pretty good. You know, I think there's like a, not an unspoken rule, but like there's just like a mini game inside of competitive COD amongst min ARs, and I don't know about other roles obviously, but when you're playing respawn against another main, is like it's almost a mini game to understand like what they're doing and like how to play around that. And doing that against Jamie is never a good time. So like I said, on top of his, you know, being the best S&D player in the game, he epitomizes fundamental Call of Duty, enables all of his teammates, and he is definitely one of the best rookie debuts that I've ever seen, in my opinion. He also shoots pretty straight, which is pretty important. Alrighty, guys, moving on to number 4, we have none other than the rat himself, MC Celium. This kid, I don't really think I need to elaborate too much on why I have Stella at number 4. He's one of his top 2 flexes in the game. The only person to beat him is at number 3, which I'll talk about shortly. But I mean, Cell is Cell, man. He's a phenomenal S&D player. He's an absolute rat. He will abuse you in every possible way in the game. Movement, game breaking bugs, lines of sight. It doesn't matter, dude. He will do whatever that little motherfucker can do to win, man. He'll talk to you in game chat and tell you how badly he wants to like fuck you. It doesn't matter, man. He'll do some absurd shit, and I have a lot of respect for MC because he takes a lot of shit. But you know, he lets the gameplay speak. He isn't one to go on social media and backlash or talk back to anyone like that. He just wins. So a lot of respect for MC. He's fucking disgusting. I don't need to elaborate too much. You guys all know why I have him in my top 5. Moving on to number 3. Now, I wanted to put Cam at number 1, but I thought that you guys would crucify me, and I really like couldn't justify it. I wholeheartedly think that like his playmaking ability, it could be right, like it could be argued for him to be the best player in this game. So obviously my number 3 slot is going to go to Cammy. These guys, man, Toronto has 3 players inside of my top 10 for a reason, and no hate to Ben. Ben's the fucking goat. Love you, Ben. But Cam is the best flex player in this game. That guy's playmaking potential is some of the best that I will ever see in my entire pro career. He's one of like maybe 3 flex players in the league. He is just as good with a sub as he is an AR, and I think that's like what a flex embodies. It's not a second AR. Like people call Brandon a flex, but he's actually just a second AR, even though he has been better with the sub this year. But Cammy is a through and through flex player, and that's something that I find very impressive. He knows how to play both roles extremely well. Like I said, his playmaking potential is fucking insane. I've seen the most ridiculous amount of bailouts from this kid throughout this entire season that I don't even understand. The amount of pop-off games he's had, just that guy is fucking insane. I said it when I was talking about Toby in Toronto, but I think that those two last year, I could like see glimmers, and I was like, damn, man, if these guys stick together, they're going to be insane. So I'm happy for Cam and Toby and the entirety of the Toronto roster. Those guys are all phenomenal dudes. I have no bad blood with any of them. You know, they're here to compete, and I respect that a lot. They don't go on Twitter and talk shit to anyone. They kind of just show up and kick everyone's ass. So shout out to Cam, man. That guy's fucking insane. All right, you mother. Now fucking 1 and 2. This is gonna hurt me. Moving on to number 2, I do have Simp. Now, guys, I like these two players I don't need to talk about at all. So I have Chris and Tyler at 1 and 2. I can't believe I'm putting Tyler at number 1, dude. It hurts my fucking soul. Chicken Little at number 1 on my list. But regardless of my opinion on Tyler, I think Chris and Tyler are the greatest sub duo of all time. And I don't think that there is going to be one that's going to rival them as quickly as they have. Their worst placing is at my hands. It's top 8. That's their worst placing ever. These guys, man, it is ridiculous how fast their come up has been and the level of consistency that these two have had as a sub duo. If they ever split up, they're fucking idiots. I think it's kind of irrefutable to have these guys at like not at 1 and 2. Obviously you can interchange them, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Chris is Tyler, whatever. But I think Tyler's job is harder, and I think a lot of people have, like, weirdly enough, like, discredited that this season because like people think like, fuck it, Chris is so much better. I think from my personal opinion, playing Tyler and playing Chris, Tyler enables Chris so much more than you guys realize, because Tyler, yes, like entry sub is like not a dead role, but like it's not really a role that a lot of players do well, so you don't really like coin the term that much. But Tyler legitimately will run at you and fucking chow you, and in every form. It doesn't matter if you're on the best heady in the world with an AR, and he'll chow you. It doesn't matter if he's running down middle map at an S&D, he'll chow you. It's like, I tip the kid, I really do. His gun skill is obviously the best in the fucking game with Chris, and I think that these two just work so well in tandem with each other. Like I said, if they ever break up, they're just idiots. Chris is much better at putting himself in positions to stay alive and be ratty and get a shit ton of kills and look like a superstar. That's Chris's role. Tyler's role is run around, annoy the shit out of you, chow you and everything, go in first. They're much different, even though like if you don't play the game that well, or if you don't understand professional Call of Duty that well, they do look the same. But I promise you that those two could not be polar opposite Call of Duty players. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you agree or disagree with my top 10, leave a comment down below. I tried my best here. Like I said, 6 through 10 is like kind of hard because you could have players like Hydra in there, but I really do think that Seth deserves a top 10 this year. That's why I put him in there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below if you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.